Here's what happened in previous episode.
I can now do ministry full time, which is such a huge blessing because it's really what I'm called to do right now in my life.
You're a non-for-profit organization. Everybody wants to say hope, for hope.
So it's hope for the oppressed, the poor, and the encumbered. And I guess after so many years of just living life here, I never even thought that we even have refugees.
Mm-hmm.
This was the Burmese community. That almost all of the Burmese children are born in the refugee camp.
The culture that they know is refugee camps.
Yes, they don't even know what life is like not in a refugee camp.
So you also work with the Afghan community.
Yes, and recently I found out that there are 26 apartment complexes in Houston alone that houses all these Afghans. We still have some coming in today,
mm-hmm.
and those are the ones that work for the United States Army that weren't able to escape, but the United States have been taking them a few at a time.
Have to leave their country with their literally shirts on their back.
Yes, it appears that they don't normally value education,
mm-hmm.
especially for girls. The first time they've ever those kids have been in a house, it blew their minds because they've never been in a house. They're like, this is the first time I've ever seen a house.
At least one of them went in our house and said, is this a furniture store?
They asked if our house was a furniture store. Our goal is to assimilate the refugees into our community. So with the Burmese, what I saw was the older children would finish high school. They would get the same assembly line jobs as their parents, and then they would just move next door. Poverty just recycles from generation to generation at this point. And then it's harder for them to learn English, to now try to get a career or do something different. Sure. So that's why I decided I'm going to start with the children because they are our future generation. And they're going to be the ones to get their parents and them and then their children out of poverty.
The experiences that you provide for them, you also, I think, provide them English classes, right?
Yes, so we teach them English.
Mm-hmm.
Education, to me, is a ticket to freedom in America. We provide new backpacks, shoes, and school supplies for them every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them to feel proud when they go to school that they actually have something that represents who they are.
Those kids know that we love them.
Yes, they do know.
Mm-hmm.
They do know. Yes. David is the hugger.
Mm-hmm.
Every kid, when they see her, boys and girls, he doesn't keep class rules as much, but he's a hugger, and they just love hugging on you. And you're so tall, they just like climb on you like a jungle gym.
Jungle gym.
I call him the human jungle gym.
They do know. They
love Mr. David.
So you talked about movies for everyone, Korean barbecue, backpacks, and then shoes. And every week you go to see them every week in clothing, furniture, and all this stuff. Surely they don't all come out of your garage.
No.
How do you support and sustain this? And you do this every day, every week. How do you support and sustain this ministry?
I will say that I have been amazingly blessed by so many generous donors. I get donations randomly throughout the year. Every year for my birthday, instead of asking for gifts, I always ask for donations.
Mm-hmm.
At this stage in my life, I don't need any more stuff. So donating to my charity is the greatest gift you can give me because it allows me to give to these kids. And
I want to interject because I do know you personally, to the point when your father recently passed away. They asked for donations to your charity.
My dad asked that before he passed, because he knew that I was helping the refugees, and because we were refugees, he knew that would help. Yes, and so we all felt like flowers will die and it doesn't give back.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mom and my dad had decided before my dad passed that that's what they had wanted. So they didn't want flowers.
Mm-hmm. They want things that have enduring value.
Yes.
Because they were refugees too.
Yes.
Because they were refugees too.
Yes.
Wow. All right,
And
so
since you're on donations, it's
Yes.
not just money.
right.
It's clothes,
Yes.
it's furniture, and everything in between, toys, and everything.
Everything. Now, that leads me to the question. So, behind the scenes, I know people are donating. You said random donations. So, do stuff to show up at your door? Are they all in good conditions? Are they ready to be packaged up and gift? What else do you have to do to them?
So it's experience over time, right? You ask for donation, but if you don't say anything, you get all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
You get furniture with holes in them. You
Barely
get,
holding together.
yes.
They rock. They rickety.
You get dirty, stained clothes. You get half-used tube of toothpaste. You get hairbrushes filled with hair. You get all kinds of things. So now I have to be very specific in asking, because I do want to share with you, like, we live in a house and we have a washing and drying machine right there. So we just throw everything in the washing machine and then it's all done right there. But for them, it is so much hardship for them to have to go to the washing machine to do this. And a lot of times the washing machines in these apartment complexes are filled with mold and mildew. It is filthy. And then for the Afghans, when they have families of 8 or 13, the washing machines that's provided there doesn't help. So they actually have to put everything up in those big black trash bags and take them to a washateria to wash it in those big commercial size.
Mm-hmm.
So you see these kids wear the same tops and bottom for days, the same one, so the parents don't have to spend so much time washing their clothes, not to mention the cost of soap and all the coins that is required for them to wash. So I've been asking people to please wash the clothes before you make the donation.
Yeah.
Because even though I have a washing machine, I don't have the capacity to wash all of the donated clothes before we send them out
And
either.
you get them a lot
You'd be
too.
Yes.
full-time wash person.
Yes.
And on the furniture side of that equation,
Yes.
when we get things that are in bad need of repair, we can't hand that to them. They don't have tools.
Right.
They don't have any way
Or know how
of
to
fixing
do it.
anything.
Or yes.
I have tools and can fix stuff, but that takes time.
So behind the scenes, I know that you are like handyman, computer fixer, bike fixer. What else do you fix? Carpet washer,
heavy
Yes.
furniture mover.
delivery.
Yes. And then it's all the rugs that we get, we make sure that they're clean, because I always think that if you're going to donate something, you need to donate it where you yourself would want to use it, right? That's how I look at it. I don't look at it as they're refugees, just give them whatever.
They're humans just like
Yes,
us.
they are. And so I want to give them things that I would wear, I would use in my own home, in a condition that I would be willing to desire to have in my home.
Yes.
So
Be proud to use. Yes. Because they're humans.
and be comfortable with it too. So every rug, we roll them out, we'll vacuum them. If they're dirty, he'll shampoo them, and then we have to let it lay on our driveway to get the sun to dry.
And hopefully it doesn't rain.
And yes,
Been there.
yes, it has rained on us
That
before.
was an adventure.
And then I do check out the clothes to make sure that we're not giving them, inappropriate clothing.
Right, because they're cultural.
Yes, they're culturally very conservative, both of them, the Burmese and
The Burmese less so.
Yes.
But even still, they prefer to be more covered up than,
yes,
unfortunately, a lot of
A lot of the
Americans.
current fashion, especially for girls, are
Yes.
very
revealing.
yes.
And
So-
that's an absolute no-no in the Afghan community.
No-no.
And I don't think that the Burmese cared as much, but as our kids in that community have gotten older and older, now there's some teenagers. They are actually choosing to be more modest.
That's good. And with all of that, what do you think are the biggest challenges you face in your ministry work, whether it's with the Afghans or the Burmese? What are the biggest challenges you face to do the work that you want to do or like to do?
We need more volunteers because there's just me. So I will say that I have been so grateful for the volunteers that I do get. Like if we have a function, I am never short of volunteers. People will show up and help with whatever event I have. But to get committed volunteers that are willing to go every single week to help you, that is difficult to get because you know we all have lives and we have families and we have jobs. So to be committed to give time every single week consistently, it's difficult to get.
It's really hard when adults have children themselves, and we went through this, but our kids, they're grown and have their own lives now, so we have the capacity to do that. So we totally understand when people have kids at home, that has to be their focus.
Or full-time jobs.
We're so grateful for you.
Well, this is because I'm hearing your stories previously to this podcast and just felt so moved by what you guys do and and have had the opportunity to go on field trips with them and seen the kids, and they're so appreciative. I mean, everything is awe and wonder. And
it's a huge blessing to you to get to love on those kids because they just soak it up and they
love me back right away. They write me love notes and stuff. So that's what keeps all of us going, right? So I wanted to just you guys, we've been focusing on the refugees and just really want to know from your perspective, what are some of your most memorable experiences through all of this? Because I've talked to you lots and I've heard some stories and just some of them are just like, how do you even? So what are some memorable experiences, whether it's good or challenging, but memorable nevertheless? Maybe one each?
I will say that, the Burmese have been mild-mannered people. So from a conduct perspective, I don't have a huge issue with them. So I'll share one memorable moment for me. When I first started at the Burmese, I still had a job. And my job in the executive role, days are very, very stressful. Some days are very stressful. So at that time, I was buying the shoes personally. And they have very wide feet. And finding wide shoes is very difficult. So I would buy all the shoes. We would all go get them fitted, and then they wouldn't fit. So I'd have to go back and exchange them and bring them back. And then they still don't fit, so I have to go. And so sometimes I'll have to run to the store like 5 times just to get everybody fitted for a pair of shoes. I'm very grateful for this organization, First Blessing, that brings a ton of shoes out now. But before, it was just me running back and forth. And I remember this is my 3rd run. And I was very stressed from work that day. And I'm at that time, my job is in California. So they're on Pacific time. So 5 o'clock here is still only 3 o'clock there. And it's time for me to go to see the kids. And this is my 3rd run for the shoes. And I was so stressed and frustrated, just thinking, oh gosh, this ministry is wearing on me because I have my job and that's my current responsibility to my boss, and I have all these problems. And so I would say I went that evening very frustrated, probably a little bit of a bad attitude, almost like it's a burden.
Yeah.
Right? Because of the level of stress I was under. I'll try not to cry. And so I show up and I have this one little girl, and it was for her, and she took the shoes that I was bringing for her and she hugged it, and she was so happy because she said this is her first pair of shoes ever, because this whole time she's been wearing her grandma's shoes, and her shoes were so big it would go all the way out to here.
Yes.
The whole time I saw that, and I just thought she's just grabbing whatever shoes, not that she didn't have shoes. But she hugged it so tight. She's like, this is my very first pair of shoes I've ever owned. And I just thought, my bad attitude went away. And
yes, it really put things in our perspective. Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Do we have Kleenex?
Yeah, when I think about those moments where just what a difference you make in these children's lives.
And those little things, you don't have to donate big money.
Yes.
But even...
Or any money. Even your daughter's hand-me-down shoes is so fashionable and new, and their only first pair of shoes. Little things.
It's so little, and it makes such a difference in these people's lives that it's it really touches you, and it makes you realize how blessed you are and how much we take for granted every little thing we have here.
Every little things.
Yes, it makes me so grateful just for the lives that we have here. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And David, I'm not going to try to make you cry either, but what are some of your memorable moments?
We've been working with the Burmese for 8 years. And there's a core group of kids from when we started 8 years ago that are still here. So they're like our second set of kids.
Yeah.
And so we've been watching them grow through elementary school and middle school, and now some of them are in high school, and it's been awesome watching them grow up. Some weeks it's just repetitive stuff, but you still get to interact with them. But then you do fun things like the summer water balloon fight, which is just complete chaos, and you just get to see them all having so much fun that you don't get to see in the daily or the weekly interactions with them. And those are a huge blessing.
Yes. Yeah, and just, this past weekend when you brought the girls, and I was able to tag along, some of the girls to enjoy a meal out. And they actually have to use fork and knife and not straight with their hands, and go to an ice cream store and dressed up all pink for Barbie themed, and just seeing them. And even during that trip, I've seen some of the girls started out very
stoic.
Yes.
Stoic.
Yes, I did too.
Right?
Yes.
And at the end, they hugged, and then and you hear that, thank you, Miss Lily. You can hear that they truly were touched by the experience, and then for them to say thank you in that little low voice, not the usual thank you, Miss Denise, but in that little voice, you just felt like that they were touched. And anyways, it's all the moments are memorable because it is so unlike the lives we live, and right?
And it's so hard to pick one.
It is so hard to pick one. We could be here. We'll have a whole podcast just on the memorable experiences.
I would throw in the Christmas party with the Burmese as well, because for most of them, it's the only Christmas present they get.
It's not just the only Christmas present; it's the only gift they get all year.
Yeah, they don't get birthday presents.
No, they get no gifts. So that is the only gift they get all year.
And they get some good gifts too.
Because we have the most generous donors. I just can't even begin to express how grateful I am.
Yeah,
for
you didn't even explain the whole Christmas party process with the Burmese.
Yes, so because they don't get gifts, they get to do a wish list, and they get to list 3 items on their wish list, and then we match them up with a volunteer. And
we have families adopt these kids for Christmas.
And so they can buy 1, 2, or all 3 items that are listed, and then they actually get to bring them to the apartment complex and meet the children and hand it to the children. And the Burmese are just so reserved, so they're not as expressive. But you know, when they go home, they're so happy because it's the only gift they've ever received. Especially the first year, they were besides themselves. They were so excited. And just to see their faces light up when they see it, even though they're reserved, you could just tell, like, and the moms come afterwards and they're crying. They're like, thank you so much for loving my kids. And I get so many moms come crying after the party is over, just to see how much we love their kids, to be able to provide for them something they personally can never provide for their children.
Yes, and I think maybe maybe this is my impression. After the party, when they see, it's not just David and Denise love them.
It's all these people.
They see that there's actually a whole bunch of people who sponsor their gifts and whatnot, or volunteers to come out with to help with the party that loves on them. That they're not so alone.
Yes,
that
they're very touched at how much the community pours into their children.
Yeah,
and we'll have some of the donors for that party. They'll adopt the same kids year after year after year.
So they get to see the children grow up. And then a lot of the donors have started providing food like rice, oil, salt, and things like that for the families. And they help the children bring these things home so they can meet the family and see how they live. And I have a lot of people like me that were once refugees. And I think it's been a while since we were refugees, so we forget how difficult it is. And I've had people who are like, oh yeah, I'm a refugee. I'm like, okay, well, thanks for donating this. Can you deliver it for me? So they will deliver it, and they walk into the apartment, and they see how these people live.
They have a little flashback,
and they just break down and cry. Even men, grown men, have broken down and cried just watching the circumstances of the condition in which these apartment complex units are like. And so then they start wanting to donate more because they now see how difficult it is and the living condition these people are in, right? Because we forget.
And we haven't really described those conditions. We've said they live in apartments, which is a huge step up from where they were in refugee camps. Why don't you describe it? But I mean, it's not like going and renting a Western-style apartment. They are, but they're really, really old. They're very run down. They're often have issues with mold. They always have issues with roaches, and they're never clean. The only time they're ever clean is when a family moves into one that they have just renovated.
And that's probably why they become a refugee complex, right? Because they get governments pay for
assistance.
Yes.
Otherwise, they may not even get.
No, they wouldn't. Clients. They wouldn't qualify because they don't have jobs most of the time, right? So that's why they have to move into government assisted.
And then these apartments don't upkeep as well because they get government assistance funding.
Yes, and they also know that these people don't speak English, so they can't say anything. It's another difficulty.
Remember, they're humans.
Yes. It's another difficulty I face because I see how poorly they're treated, but I can't say anything because if I say something, they'll get kicked out of the complex.
Yeah, we don't want that to
No,
happen.
I don't want them homeless, so I can't even complain on their behalf because I mean, the kitchen counters are caving in like this because there's a plumbing leak and they won't come replace it. I see ceilings breaking through because of roof leaks. They won't come fix it. They just keep letting them live like that.
It's not good. What gave y'all this capacity to love like this?
when you saw for yourself what it's like when you show up to see this, right? It's just, it really tugs on your heart. And for me personally, my deep compassion to see these kids thrive in this community. I want to see them get out of poverty, get their families out of poverty, and live a productive life in America. And know what it's like not to live on welfare, and to enjoy the things that are out there. There's so many things they don't know. Last summer, we also took some kids to a church beach retreat. It was the first time they'd ever walk on sand. And then when we took them downtown to eat at the Korean barbecue, it was the first time they'd ever seen those big buildings downtown. They'd never seen. They were like, oh, wow.
The high-rise buildings.
The high-rise buildings.
Actually, and they were excited to see the bathroom hand dryer.
Oh, yes, most of them. They think it's magic water when it's the hand sensor water.
Yes.
They think it's magic water.
Yes, and then the hand dryer goes off. They were like ecstatic, and yeah. It's all new
yes,
world.
it's all new, but they don't know what they're missing until you show it to them, and that's what gives them the aspiration to work harder.
When you give love and you see the awe and wonder that they have, and see that they can potentially aspire for more, and then you get that as a motivation to keep going. Is that it propels you like that?
It does. And I guess my biggest thing is just I really would like to break the poverty cycle in these families. It broke my heart to see the oldest son graduating from high school and just doing whatever his parents is doing.
No, not better.
There's no improvement. There's just.
But you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, right? So we talk about a lot about that, going to college versus not going to college, making $10 an hour versus $30 an hour. Who would want to make $10 working 1 hour versus working 1 hour and getting $30, $40, $50 an hour? Like, it's just such a huge difference in your lifestyle and what you can do with your life by having that. Even if they don't go to college, I told them just to get that additional education after trade school
or something like that.
Yes. So in their mind, they now know you have to go to college. And so we took a few to Baylor, where our kids went to school, just for them to see what college looks like, because they understood the word college, but they didn't understand what that meant.
It's just a word.
It's just a word. Wow, it's a big, big school.
Yes.
So pretty. Wow. So have you had kids that have moved on out of high school yet? Have you been with the community line enough to see
the oldest kid I have is going in the 10th grade, and sadly she just moved to Minnesota.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, hopefully you still can connect to see.
Yes, her sister is still here, so yes. And
Okay.
I'm friends with her on Facebook, so she still messages me when she needs something. So
Oh. How about you, David? What motivates you to just?
Are you kidding? The love I get from these kids is more than enough.
It fuels. It fuels. They do.
You can go, and sometimes you're just exhausted when you're doing this, and then those kids start loving on you, and you just it melts away. You should see
when they pull up. There's already a little entourage. They're waiting for your car. They know your car, and they're waiting, and they just run. They just run for hugs. And then when they're ready to leave, and there's an entourage running behind the cars.
Yes.
And sometimes there's even maybe stowaways. They just want to go home with you.
yes,
And that does give you a lot of
it does.
affirmation that
Yes.
what you're doing, they're receiving.
Yes.
So, as we wrap up this we could go for like part 6 to this. What do you want our audience, whether they're watching us or they're listening to the podcast, what's 1 or 2 key points that you really want them to, if they didn't hear anything else, that you really want them to hear from your stories?
For me, I just want the public to be aware that we do have refugees that are here, and their life circumstances are not what they asked. It's not something they did to themselves. It's just a situation that was put upon them because of where they originally lived or where they're from. Just the persecution that they were there, and that they are here legally, and they do need help. In order for America to do well, we have to help these refugees assimilate, because whether you help them or ignore them, they are there. And these children are the future of America. And so together, we can help them assimilate to make America better. When they're so young, it's better for us to teach them the proper etiquette, the proper ways to behave in America.
How to navigate this country.
And how to navigate and how to be a productive citizen in this country, or to keep living off of us, taxpayers, right? And I don't think anybody wants these refugees to live off of our tax dollars. So just a little bit of volunteer time, a little donation can go such a long way to making a difference to these refugees' lives.
Yes. How about you, David?
What I would say is anybody that actually wants to give back to their community, but they're afraid to, there is nothing to be afraid of. These, whether it's the Burmese or the Afghans, they're all Muslim. There's nothing to be afraid of. These people will all love you, and they welcome every single volunteer who's ever come with us.
And I will testify to that. I guess it's been about a year since I've kind of dipped my toes into helping your organization, volunteering with the organization, and I knew nothing. I really didn't know the Muslim culture. I really didn't know anything about refugees, and you probably could tell my sense of
nervousness.
Yes. And it's like, what do I do? But yes, they seem to know, okay, you're here to help me, and
I'm going to let you.
And I'll let you, and then I will love you for it.
Yes.
And that's what it keeps us going back. But I will say, really, you guys have inspired my husband and I to go back week after week as well, because you model it for us. We can see that what you do really do impact them, and that they love you back. So then we are not afraid to try.
Yes.
Right. So, and I think it's important for this podcast and for you all to hear the stories, because it's not scary. They're nice people, and they really, truly need the help in every little bit. Even just spending time, because they are lonely.
Yes.
They left everything that they have. They're lonely, and the community they have are all refugee community, and sometimes they just need people who don't also have problems to talk to.
And the more Americans they get to interact with, the easier it is for them to
assimilate.
Yes. So we go and we say, hello, how are you? And we don't, and ask them to say it back. Just all part of welcoming them to our community and be partaking part of our community.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining our podcast and sharing so openly and vulnerably. And we hope that everyone who's been watching, maybe you can find a way that you can participate in helping, whether it's the refugees or any other needs. Again, there's probably more stuff in your house that you need. So maybe look around your house. Maybe there's something that you don't need anymore, but it'd be a treasure for them. So thank you for coming, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having us.
And that brings us to the end of another exciting episode of Hello World. Please support our podcast by hitting the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to smash that like. Your likes will help our podcast reach more awesome people like you. Lastly, tap that notification bell to receive instant alert whenever we drop in a new episode. We can't wait to see you again on our next episode. Until then, keep on being a positive force in this world.